Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. Your entry is not valid, or the meeting has not started yet. Re-enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. If you are the meeting host, enter your PIN followed by a pound. If you are
Okay, I think we're ready to go. So welcome to the Selectmen's meeting, December 7th, 2020. I think it was,
Mute that?
pardon?
Can you mute that?
No. Yeah.
all participants.
I think it's about 80 years ago that we had Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. The first item of business is to look at the meeting minutes of November the 16th. Consider.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes?
No.
All right, all in favor, say aye, please. And the second set of minutes is the special meeting we had on the 23rd of November. And we have a motion for that set of minutes, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Discussion on that?
I have a motion.
No.
All right, all in favor then?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next item is to turn to appointments. We have two, and we can discuss perhaps a third recommendation as well. But for the Economic Development Commission, we have Cheryl Poyer, and she would be, there are two positions that are empty, but her position would have a maturity date, if you will, of 2024, January 2024. The Economic Development Commission members, there are up to 9 of them, and we, at this moment, have 2 vacancies. So Cheryl would be filling the one which has an end date of January of 24. I think you've seen her resume or her sheet here, and she's been involved with a number of things recently on the, she's actually on the Sustainable Connecticut O-Line team, and we'll be talking about that a little later, and so she's recommended.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor of Cheryl for the EDC?
Aye.
Aye.
Tim, I think we have to amend the agenda because the agenda has her term ending January 2021.
We're going to have a problem with that. Can you swing that mic to the other side? Yeah. What is your question?
The agenda has the term of Cheryl Poyer ending January 20 of 24, or 21 rather. So I think when I looked at the sheet, there is a term ending 24 and a term ending 21. She was originally slated for the term ending 24 because actually the one in 21 was a more recent resignation, so we would modify that to be January 2024. We do have another possibility for the term ending 2021. Next month?
Yeah. Well, you're filling the unexpired term.
Right, well, if it doesn't get filled, it anyways, it will go till.
Well, I mean, we're going to be doing all the ones coming in January. So.
Right. Well, it makes sense to fulfill hers to 24.
Yeah, but then if we move on the other applicant, that term ends January 21. I think we just go to 21, and then she'll be on the list for going another 5-year term from that point when we do it in January.
Okay.
It's a little clumsy, but...
Well, should we amend then the agenda for Cheryl to say to January 2024?
I think we, it was written on here 24. I don't think it makes a great deal of difference whether we stick with 21 or 24 with her. This other vacancy actually occurred more recently. I thought it was a 21 when I put the agenda together, but Michelle had it as 24, so I think we could stick with 24 for Cheryl, and then we...
Right, but let's just keep it all consistent. We'll say on the, well, Mary Jo was saying, the agenda, put it as 24.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll make a motion then that we amend the agenda for Economic Development Commission for Cheryl Poyer
Okay.
to January of 2024.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Curry, you second that, so to change that from 21 to 24. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. So now we can vote on Cheryl for terminating in 24.
We already did, didn't we?
I don't know.
I think we
I don't
voted
know.
on it first and then we amended the agenda.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll cart before the horse a little bit. But okay. The next item is the Halls Road Improvement Committee. It is a committee. It has no specific number of members, as do the boards and commission. But David Kelsey would like to join that group. David has been active in town, of course, and he also owns real estate and a business on Huntley Road, which I think is within the district of the Halls Road Improvement Committee. So I think he would be a good addition to that. In case people don't know, he is on the Board of Finance from 2008 to present. He's on the board of the library, and I don't know if he's the treasurer now or was the treasurer, but he's been there for 6 years, and he's on the McCurdy Salisbury Educational Foundation as the finance chairman and on the Sound View Commission for a number of years. So that's a suggestion. These terms, they are not terms for the Halls Road Improvement Committee, so it would be it would not have a specific term as do the others.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Discussion, please.
All right.
Isn't David Kelsey the Board of Finance, what they call it, representative from the Board of Finance to the Halls Road Improvement Committee?
You probably have to step down from that, won't you?
Step down from what?
If he's on a specialist for the Halls Road Committee, he probably could. I mean, more likely would. I don't think there's anything to say.
I don't think there's a specialist for Halls Road Committee, is there?
I thought that there was a representative. It was called the representative from the Board of Finance on the committee, and I thought it was David.
Specialists are usually for big departments like Public Works and so forth. I'm sure if something came along and he was considered the specialist for something that included the Halls Road, I think boards and commissions probably have a specialist for them, don't they, Chris?
Well, it usually just falls under the big lump sum of boards and commissions.
Yeah.
And so obviously probably wouldn't be taking on boards.
And it's not a board, so, but I would imagine if something came along where there was a recommendation for town funding or whatever, he might have to recuse himself on the board.
But if he was on the boards and commission specialist, he was already overseeing the Soundview Association before. And I think, wasn't there an email that he resigned from Soundview?
I think that's coming. I don't think I've officially seen anything on that.
Okay.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
But sure they can work around it.
So, I mean, is it your understanding that the chair of the Halls Road Improvement Committee is aware of this and is okay with it? I mean, I'm assuming that David, I kind of believe he's pretty much involved with being the representative from the Board of Finance. He probably has been to several of the meetings and knows what's going on.
Yeah,
So you don't know if the chair has had any, is aware of this and is okay with this position?
I don't know what to say.
I'm sorry, because of the way this system works, I'm not catching it. So you...
Does the chair of this committee, have they weighed in on adding this
No,
person?
I have not heard from the chair on this, no.
Has the chair been requested, been informed?
I don't know. I haven't personally. As I say, I think that the David's role as a property owner and a business owner would make it really a compelling nomination.
I guess I just feel we should at the very least inform the chair that there's somebody interested. So could we hold on voting on this till the chair has been made aware?
Well, they're getting into things, I hate to hold it up a couple of weeks just because of a technicality.
When's their next meeting?
I'm not sure. I think they probably meet once a month, but they have engaged an engineer, and the engineer has already sent an invoice in, and at this point, the task is to, I think, make sure that the engineer is staying on course. It's BSC, so we know them well, and as I say, I think David having his background would be really, he's focused and he manages income properties and
very capable.
Yeah.
Well, no, what the last person, Cheryl, did we check that one?
There was a note.
Yeah, I think that Margulis, I believe he weighed in on that. Yeah, so I don't know. I think David's, as you say, I think he is expecting to come off of Soundview, and he wants to focus attention on Halls Road and Soundview. He's going to get off of that. So.
I mean, I don't have a problem with going on. But
Yeah.
I understand what you were saying also. I was trying to see if there's anything. I can't find it in my email.
Well, what we could do is I could call Edie Twining, and we could have it subject to her approval, and if she doesn't, then we could talk about it next time.
That sounds good.
So we better add that to the motion, and
So we'll add the.
I guess we have to amend the motion because it was moved and seconded that I will speak to Chairman Twining, and if she is fine with the addition of Mr. Kelsey, why it'll be a fact. If she has an issue, I'll bring it back.
Okay, I'll amend my motion
Okay, so
contingent upon Tim speaking with the chair.
Yeah.
And upon the chair's approval.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment. All in favor of having the amendment approved, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll go back to the actual amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, we have an application that came in actually today. It's probably would be normal practice to wait, but this the Economic Development Commission, Maura Rowe. Maura lives in Essex actually, but she has been active in Lyme. She relocated to Essex from California last year, where she'd been working, where she has been working with Gil Burroughs Art Studio 80 Sculpture Grounds since February, and she has been involved in some community meetings and various events and marketing initiatives. She sent along some supporting information, but she has been in the field of economic development in California, and she got some very rave reviews from the city of Auburn, California, which is, she says, somewhat similar to Olyme. It's a smaller town, but the mayor and some other people sent some very favorable recommendations. I checked the ordinance, and there's not a requirement that the person be a registered voter or an elector, they call it. So the commission consists of 9 members, no alternates, and so there's no residency requirement as such. And I believe Mr. Margulis was endorsing the application this type gets smaller and smaller as you get toward the bottom. I don't know how it's going to disappear. But she's been offered a consulting position with the Lyme Academy of Fine Arts. So she's definitely involved locally, even though she resides in Essex. So this is a late entry. If we want to consider her, we'd have to vote to add this to the agenda. If we want to wait a month, then to the next meeting, we could do that as well.
I say we wait a little while. I mean, she might be very confident. I still believe in filling it with old-time residents, personally. I mean, like I said, this just came in at 3 o'clock today.
Okay, we'll develop.
My suggestion, Mary Jo, I don't know.
I'm fine with just waiting till next meeting and putting it on the agenda.
Okay, well, we'll do that, and we'll get some of the related material out to you. Okay. So probably not the first meeting in January, but the second meeting, we'll consider all the appointments that are due to come up in January of 2021. A typical January appointment cycle. We'll get that in a couple more meetings from now. Okay, the next is old business. I got a list today which shows that as of the 3rd of December, the caseload is up to 89. So obviously it is moving up somewhat regularly. When you consider November 3rd, it was 44, so it's almost doubled since that time. And going back to early October was 28. So we've seen an acceleration, as has Connecticut and the whole United States. I don't know whether that might be a function of more testing that's occurring. More testing equals more results and more diagnoses, or just what. On the last governor's call, I asked if I could speak to the governor's advisor to try to get more assistance to reconcile some of the details here, because at this point all I can say is what we get from DPH. And then Ledge Light does come out with a little more information using the same numbers, but in terms of the nature of the cases, the date, the gender, and the age, it's not coming in a very timely fashion. So I know a number of people are very interested in that, and it's at this point there's not a good synchronization between these raw numbers and the details. We'll try to get better on that. But suffice it to say that the caseload continues up. Well, I think Dave Roberge and Mary Jo worked on some protocols for us. Those are still drafted, but I think I put out a memo to the town employees talking about what to do if somebody's been exposed or somebody actually comes down with the COVID. And so we're trying to have a process by which we can track those instances. We are about to engage what we call a greeter at Town Hall, which would be somebody similar to what we had when we opened up after being closed for a while. I think it was early June. And so if we have somebody stationed out here in the foyer, then when people come in, we will really push to have people make appointments with staff in Town Hall as opposed to just stopping in. That would make sure that the person that the customer wants to see will be here, and it will also make sure that we don't overload a department with walk-in traffic. So we're really wanting people to make appointments if they must come in. We're stressing that a lot of information can be exchanged on the telephone or with emails and the like, so we're discouraging just stopping in to ask a simple question when it can be done over the telephone. So when members of the public come in, they'll have their temperature taken, ask if they have an appointment. If not, they'll say, could the matter you wish to deal with be done on the phone or via email? And if they really want to meet with someone, then there'll be the greeter will contact the department and see if the person that needs to help them is available, and get them to where they need to go. We don't know how long this might have to be, of course, but I think this will limit the number of people and make sure no department has too many people showing up at the same time. Because taxes will be, people will be thinking about taxes very seriously in 2 or 3 weeks, and into January we are again requesting or practically requiring that people wishing to make tax payments do so using the mail or using the drop box, which is in the middle door in the main part of the town hall. If you want a receipt stamped with a tax stamp, then just put in an envelope with a return postage, and that can be accomplished for you. But tax payments are indeed something we want to have done remotely. So we're hoping that the middle to the latter part of the week we'll have our greeter in place, and we will have our protocol document that you worked on, Mary Jo, more refined and available for the distribution to the staff, that will spell out as much as we can spell out. So I think there's a lot of material, but I think people are more aware of what we're trying to do, and that will be very helpful. And we're also looking toward contingency plans if one or more employees in town hall were stricken. What would we do? And that could include working from home, trying to access one's computer in town hall the proper way. God forbid if somebody is really on the ropes medically and has to be in a hospital or something, then indeed we need contingency plans for staff. Most offices have 2 people, but you just never know what might occur, so we need to be ready to deal with most any eventuality. So it's coming together, but it isn't easy when you don't have a lot of depth in the staff. So more later on that, but I think the greeter will be a welcome relief. And
so is the greeter going to be taking, registering names and, the walkie-talkies like we mentioned before?
Well, actually, we can use a phone cord that goes from the outlet out to the table. So I think the walkie-talkies I've heard have not operated that well. So if the greeter can simply dial the extension of the department on the phone, that'll be a heck of a lot better.
Okay.
Yes, we will have a log. So sort of like when you go into an office building in a city, you would sign your name, time in, time out, what's your destination, that sort of thing, which could play a role in contact tracing if something happened and an area had an infection, and we could go to the log on that particular day and we would know that there were 3 or 4 people who had visited that department at near the same time, and that might help out. So we'll try different things, and but that's the expectation.
Chris, you had some experiences with other town halls that you were talking about last time we met and today earlier about separate entrances and exits.
Yeah, I went to 2 town halls today. Essex has everybody going through this one door, same door, but a different route. When they get in, they go right and up and around, and the greeter does name, phone number, and address. Time in, time out, and then your destination, just like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then when they come out, they're able to loop around, but still go out the same door. So the greeter knows, they only have one greeter, that you left. And I thought that was pretty good. Deep River had it different, where you went in one door, just name, address, no phone number, department you're going into, and then you show yourself out, but it's out to the back of the side of the building, so that the greeter never knows when you leave. So I think
they don't get a timeout sheet.
Right. I don't know how we can set it up, but maybe you go to the right of the staircase to the things, and you come out to the left of the staircase and exit out here. And we were talking about before closing off the lower level, unless maybe handicapped, they can make an appointment and
right.
shuttle them in. But I think that would be my suggestion, something like along that line.
And honestly, I don't think we have a constant flow in and out. There might be some peak times and slack times, but
I was basically the only one in the town hall.
Yeah.
They were in both those situations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them, Groton Town Hall is still closed. They closed for 2 weeks, public.
Really?
Yeah, and that's,
Did they have an outbreak in the?
I don't know. they said they're not opening up until December 14th. As of now, and that's a real inconvenience. But, you know, you're here every day, so I mean, you probably see it. I'm sure the traffic has definitely slowed down. But like you said, you're going to get people paying their taxes, and there's a lot of old school people who want to come and pay by hand.
We're certainly going to step up the public information, discouraging just coming in when you could do it by phone and so forth. Just really try to impress upon people that it's for their own good, it's for the good of their fellow citizens and the staff that we just don't have a constant flow of people as much as possible. So we'll see what happens. And if I expect it'll really make a difference, and we can always tweak it if we need to.
And in both situations, what they did is when they contacted that department, they made sure nobody was in there, and that they're either doing one or two at a time, depending on the size of the office in there, the room. But like I said, I was the only one.
I think one of the biggest offices to watch is the town clerk.
Well, the upstairs is kind of...
Well, yeah, but I think the town clerk, it's a small office, and you can get people trying to crowd in to get into the vault or to talk to one of the people in there. So and I think the town hall staff will have to say, please respect the 6-foot stripes and that sort of thing, because if people get close, they just have to be reminded. So we'll work it out, but I think this is poised to happen this week.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, it seems simple. I like that idea where you can have people go up maybe even one set of stairway and come down the other set or something. Just simple stuff like that to separate people.
Yeah.
I think
we have to complicate it.
And
like you said, I don't think we have to complicate it. It's pretty.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
Right, and of course the person at the table can see the other doors. Mm-hmm. So if they see somebody, typically, you forget and you go out the door, you could probably recognize it and make
other locations were all highly marked that this is the entrance, this is the exit, or enter and exit here.
Yeah.
So we can do it like we initially had it when the Rangers were here. Enter here.
That's true from the outside. Yeah. And if we want to have them log out, then they need to come back through, so that can happen.
Everybody has to go out the same way, so
maybe
log it out.
Yeah, and it's big enough so if somebody's at the counter, the person wishing to leave could just sort of hold back and wait.
Right.
We'll work it out.
I don't think we're going to get like a rush, like it's voting time turnout, where there's a big line. You're going to get stragglers, a couple builders here and there wanting to have a question, or someone paying a thing, or someone grabbing a deed or something like that, hunting license or whatever they do.
Yep. Good.
Do you want to talk about the COVID testing that the town was involved in this week under this topic?
You mean up at the park?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too much about that. We saw something on Limelight, and so as to who scheduled it, I have no idea. I know there was some confusion about where it was to be, and we put out what we thought was right, and I guess it was at the Townwoods Field House and not the senior center itself, and so I still have no idea who actually scheduled it and whether they actually went through the process to, I guess if it was not at the senior center and they just said, well, we'll have it at the field house, and they didn't talk to the park and rec director, then that's pretty presumptuous. So I don't know.
That's how I understood it. The parking lot was used to sneak people around, but the testing was at the senior center.
I don't know. Nobody talked to me about it.
There was an email from Park and Rec director saying it was at
the field house.
Yeah. and he was.
It's almost like
not
that
happy.
baseball thing down at the cross lane where it
Well, Dave walked through with Ledgelight. What I know about it is about, 2.5 weeks ago or so, Dave and I got an email from Ledgelight saying they had resources to do a testing. And I said, gee, that sounds great, I'll defer to my EMD. And the couple days before the event, I emailed both Ledgelight and the EMD to make sure they didn't need anything. I was told everything was fine. Dave apparently had walked out everything with Ledgelight. Phil Parkett knew about it because I had sent out an email to him saying, you're going to make sure to clean the senior center, and he said, yeah. So if it wasn't at the senior center, we wouldn't have needed cleaning. And then we got a letter from Jerry Baker, who was the director of the board of directors there, indicating that she thought there wasn't enough public information available to allow people to get the test, and that the communication should have been better. I got a lot of emails from people saying how wonderful the process was, how basically 20 minutes in and they were done, and they really appreciated it. So, I can understand Don being confused or concerned about the process, but in general, it sounds like it went really, really well.
well, where was that actually held? Was it at the field house or was it at the?
This is what I'm not sure now. My understanding was that it was going to be done at the senior center. That's what Dave had told me. And traffic was going to be routed around the parking lot.
Through the overhang, under the overhang, right?
Yeah, but back up around the field house if you needed to, depending on how popular this was. I didn't get there until, I don't know, it was about 5, and the weather had already turned bad, so they were shutting down when I got there. But the lights were on in front of the senior center under the overhang. There was no lighting down by the field house. So it sounds like there's some miscommunication.
Yeah, because I think Don was concerned that it was committed at the field house or in the park, and nobody told him that it would be till 5 or 6 o'clock at night when it normally shuts at dark. So
yeah, well, my understanding is it was at the senior center from 2 to 5, and from 1 to 2 was supposed to be for our first responders to go through.
Right, I got the notification the day before.
Yeah.
That was the first I heard.
1 to 2.
For the fire, on my fire department thing, that's what I was just looking for. And it said, I believe it was the senior center they were sending us to.
Yeah.
The one at 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't go anyways, and then I all got the email from Don Buckley saying, so I was all confused where.
Yeah, my understanding is it was at the senior center, and that's why you had to have the cleaning service, etc. And Stephanie had been told, Stephanie was aware of it. I had a chat with her. She knew it was going to happen.
Well, if Stephanie knew, then why Jerry should have known. Maybe they needed.
I think it should have gone out. I think the issue was it should have gone out to the townspeople to let them know about it. I saw it, the first place I saw it was on Ledgelight's Health District website.
Yeah. Well, we put something out on Friday. Almost,
it was on Friday. Yeah.
Which was on Friday, yeah, because we didn't know about it before that. So maybe they were reserving the park, as you say, for the overflow parking, and they needed a place for it to snake around. But
because when I drove there were cones through the parking lot to allocate traffic, to direct traffic.
Yeah.
But the lights were on underneath the overhang, and that's where there were people staged, as well as a policeman. So we had first responders there.
Well,
Did we find out how many people actually went? Did we get any results?
I'd like to know. I don't know. And
well, I'm sure Dave must know, because there was something with Dave, Robers, I think. the way the thing came across my alert was it was set up through emergency management.
Well, I can tell you the people that
well, we can post-mortem the thing
said
with
it
it.
went really well.
Well, that's good.
Appreciate
It went well.
All right.
So I think the takeaway is that people appreciated it from Lyme and Old Lyme. From what I understand, I got comments from both townspeople, and that it was a worthy effort, and people didn't have to wait in line like we've experienced in Old Lyme. I know on Ledgelight I saw that they're opening up another testing opportunity for people in Madison, so that maybe that will take off some of the pressure off of the old Saybrook site. And the one in Old Lyme they put on the Ledgelight website, they considered it a pop-up. So, like, it may not happen again, but sounds like it could happen again.
Sounds like it was a pop-up.
Huh?
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a true pop-up.
It sounds like there were some people that did not know about it, but the fact that we've had a dry run, I'd love to see that we get more opportunities.
Well, maybe that was part of the reason people liked it so much is fewer people showed up and it wasn't a chaos.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Turning to project updates, Mizzy Construction, which was the firm hired by Connecticut Water to do the water mains and connections in Soundview, I believe that I haven't been down this week to see, but they were preparing to leave that site, take all their fencing down and supplies and so forth, and then they were going to box out the road that would be the bus road in the future, hopefully. So I'll try to cycle by there tomorrow to see if that has happened. So that was what they had told us at the beginning. They'd do that road work for us as a token of their appreciation for using the site.
So are they all done with the Connecticut Water Project down
Soundview.
Down there.
I think so. Now there's still a lot of activity in Old Lyme Shores and other areas, but I think Soundview.
Well, that's VMS.
Different, yeah.
It's different company.
Yeah, I think Soundview's done,
Okay.
as far as I understand. I haven't gotten a letter from the company to say we're set, but I think if Mizzy was pulling up stakes, they would. That's a clear indication. Speaking of sidewalks, or Soundview rather, we have the sidewalk project, and Mary Jo, you're the expert on that.
The committee met a couple weeks ago. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m. We are still finalizing our design. We're waiting on the easement to the EZ Mart, and that's capital E, capital Z Mart on the corner of Hartford Avenue and 156. The attorney has sent the draft easement. The VSC group who did the survey sent their part into the attorney. So what we're waiting on is a title search.
That's being done tomorrow.
Okay, and Tim made a contact for the title search, and when that's done, for the most part, we'll be ready to submit to the DOT for approval to go out to bid. One of the things I wanted to also share, like I told you last time, we're putting temporary rights agreements for the private properties on Hartford Avenue, and there's 13 properties. We have 4 that are outstanding. 2 are pending, so I'm hopeful, and 2 are a little more delicate. One is a trust, so I think we're having a hard time finding the person responsible for that property. And the other is a property that is not interested in signing at this point. So we're going to be talking about that property again and what we might be able to do and to encourage them to sign because it's certainly to their benefit to allow our contractor to come onto their property and make sure that their driveway that connects to the sidewalk, there's a smooth transition. We have two parts of this project that require our engineer, BSC Group, who, as you all know, we went out to bid in 2019 and 2018, and they were selected, and we have an agreement from January 2019 with BSC Group. Part of the need when you're a small town is municipal services. One of the things that is requested by the grant is some services during construction. Those will be like an inspection. Those will be covered by the grant. The $400,000 will cover BSC taking on that responsibility. The other part of the grant is services, municipal services during construction. And BSC has also sent in a bid in October for that function also. I think in talking with Tim, the Board of Selectmen needs to discuss considering BSC as the sole source vendor of this group or of this project. The total additional costs for the additional services will be $15,000 as their flat fee for the services that will be reimbursed under the project. So there will be no outlay by the town of Line for that. And then there's a flat fee of $15,000 for the municipal services. For example, they'll look at invoices. They'll make sure that all the backup to the documentation before we pay them is appropriate. They'll set up the meetings with the contractor and write the minutes. So there's a whole series of things. I think I've got a copy for everybody. I know, Tim, you've seen this many times. I don't know that Chris has.
So when we go to the Board of Finance in 2 weeks, where our next meeting, we'll have a refined list and
everything that they're bidding on or that they'd like to amend our agreement for is in those. So they're basically the list of services and what they won't pay for, which for most of those services, it's going to be a requirement for the contractor to do anyway. So the $15,000 for the municipal services is a flat fee, as I mentioned. There may be some pass-through for printing, that sort of thing. That shouldn't be a lot. That they may have moved on their bid as to what they estimate those costs to be. But assuming that we won't have enough money to do both Hartford Avenue and Shore Road, I would expect that $15,000 would come down somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's based on economy of scale, like their person from BSC would come out for like assessing something during construction, that they would be making a visit to Shore Road and for Hartford Avenue if we were doing the whole project. So there's some economies of scale in doing the whole project, but I would assume that, $15,000 is the worst case scenario for us. And when I talked with Kurt last, he thought that the pass-through for $2,000 was more than sufficient. So that would be a request for $17,000, which would be worst case scenario for that in municipal support.
I guess once we get the bids in, we can refine things very carefully, how much we can do on the Shore Road part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the survey part is also something that we have to fund through town. I think it was
1,800, wasn't it, for the survey? Something like that. But I had a list last month at the Board of Finance, so they're somewhat aware of it, and and that would be sort of the worst case, because if we scale back significantly on Shore Road, then the items that are for both parts of the job would be shrunk down. So we'll have to see how that comes out. But the survey that'll obviously be, there won't be any change to that. That's being done now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely municipal expense, right?
Yeah.
And, in that particular case, initially, when the project started, we didn't think we needed an easement. So that's why that one came as sort of a surprise. Soundview had an agreement with the previous owner of the Easy Mart, but it wasn't a real easement. So that is what it is. But I'm hoping that the Board of Finance can support this so we can get all this signed off. It's okay.
Cough.
Yeah. Hope that we can get these signed off so we don't have a delay.
Yeah. Well, at the Board of Finance, we'll probably talk about different scenarios, like if we had very little money left over, what would that involve if we did half of it? We know it won't be all of it, so, but it'll be a fairly tight range, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we work with Kurt, they're an honorable firm. I know that they are very concerned to do the right thing for us, and they want this to be successful. And they made this bid in October, so I wanted to make sure that the numbers were still valid now that it's December, and he said they are, so that's good to know too.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is the Haynes Park restroom building. I think that is moving along nicely. I think the framing and the roof are done. I think they're working inside the building at this point. The last week, I think they finished up a number of the sidewalks that needed to be put in. There was some discussion on providing a foot shower type of thing for people that would be coming off the beach, that they could rinse the feet off. And I think that was discussed at Park and Rec, and I think that because that task wasn't contemplated in the project, it was to be considered as an item that the fundraising might take care of, because I think you all remember that the fundraising effort for the boathouse realized, I think, something in the neighborhood of $50,000. And I think most of that remains intact. So as I was talking to Phil, we were agreeing that as opposed to trying to incorporate whatever the cost of this foot shower type thing or any other shower, if that was contemplated, would be not part of the project and would be done by the fundraising money and not the money that's been allocated for this restroom. However, it would be smart to plumb the building so that the pipe would come down and out, and so it could be attached and extended or whatever might happen. I think the one concept was somewhat close to the building. There'd be like a small concrete pad with something you step on and the water would sprinkle on your feet. Wasn't going to be a shower like in your house. And then I think maybe the decision is to postpone. I think Phil indicated that at the Park and Rec meeting they were going to wait and maybe think it through some more. So I don't think there's anything active right at the moment for the foot shower, other than having the pipe be available outside the building with a separate shutoff valve. So that's going along. I think the target date is still the end of the year or a little bit into January. The weather's been a little nasty and stuff, so it might go into the first week of January, but certainly not going to inconvenience any potential users of the building. And it's come along very nicely.
Yeah, it looks pretty. Actually, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I did listen to the Park and Rec Commission meeting last week when this came up, and it sounded like Jeff Flower had some building code concerns. Actually some understanding that maybe a shower per se wouldn't be allowed because that the water may need to have its own septic system or drainage system. So the foot bath seemed more promising.
Yeah.
There was some discussion on whether there might be able to pull water from the lake, like a pump situation, to wash the boats and to use as a foot bath type of thing. Because the concern was whether the new system would have enough water to support both the shower and possibly any other needs. And nobody's really going to know that during this until it's open and being used. So that's the takeaway from that John is going to look into some things with the building officials at the state, and they're going to revisit it at their next meeting.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't want you to lather up and have the soap go into the lake. Good. Grassy Hill, there's been no further discussion on that over the last couple of weeks. I think what would be fruitful there is when the Board of Finance meets to have the engineer attend the Board of Finance meeting and discuss the project thoroughly at that point. As we know, the submission for the time extension included two columns. One column was the cost estimate that was used for the preliminary design, and the other column was an updated version based on more engineering, and the two were very different. The construction costs went up radically to the tune of some 90%. So that would make the town's contribution go up as well, and so I think there has to be a very objective discussion about what to do there. We know that part of not the expense, but part of the task will be to move the utility poles in that area, or particularly the one in front of the bridge. The way Grassy Hill Road comes out over the bridge, it splits. And the left side coming out heads to East Lyme, the right side goes down toward Laysville. So the plan was to remove the pole, which is in the center of that Y. Now that is not an easy task because the wires from Boughton Road come to that pole across the road, across Route 1. The power going up and down Route 1 goes across that pole. And then the wires that go up Grassy Hill Road also come around and go there. So it's a very complicated situation to move it. So that needs to be discussed as well, because if we could maybe accomplish that regardless, that if we proceed with the project, then good. If we do not proceed with the project, then at least the pole would be out of the way for the next step. One thing that you have to watch out for, though, is similar to Mile Creek. If the wires are close to the bridge, when they wish to use a crane to move things, that the wires must be at least 15 feet away from wherever the crane might rotate. So if they are within that, then similar to Mile Creek, they've got to be moved away from that 15 feet. So that's something that we need to contend with. So I think we'll try to get a good idea of, does this bridge need to be replaced? What I've heard from Macknick Brothers is they did some work on it, and I think the bridge itself is reasonably okay. The walls on the side of the bridge are sort of cement stone wall sitting on the bridge. So they're not your typical unitized sidewalls, but they've been that way since who knows when that bridge was made, and they've held up pretty well. So while it has some shortcomings, do we want to go and spend the money to do that bridge at this point? So there'll be a good discussion, and I think at the end of it we can develop hopefully consensus to either go or no go with that. Next item is the Ferry Road sidewalk. The steep grant, I think we mentioned last time, was awarded to the town, $124,000 from the steep grant, meaning that the town would put in $26,000 to get to $150,000. So I went back to the OPM Office of Policy and Management and confirmed that we had received the information on the grant. So the next step will be that we will get paperwork to be completed, and the job would likely be something done during the warmer months. The next step will be to evaluate the current sidewalk. As we know, the sidewalk is very narrow going down Ferry Road, and the tree roots over the years have buckled the sidewalk panels, and some of it's probably almost impassable. So we need to have the tree commission and the tree warden have a look-see at the trees, and if the trees are in failing condition, that's one thing. If they're in good, healthy trees, that's another thing. I know up here near Youth Service Bureau, when we did Lime Street, we actually made the sidewalk deviate around the tree so we didn't disturb it. Now that's a much smaller tree. Whether we could do something like that with these, one or more of these trees, would be the critical question, because I think we all love our mature trees, and it would be pretty awful to contemplate having to remove trees simply because the sidewalk has to go through. So that'll be a very delicate situation, and we'll get moving on that analysis quickly. So I think we're in pretty good shape with the state grant. Now it's just a question of analyzing what we have to do vis-a-vis the trees, and then move along the process with going out to bid and that sort of thing. So we will find out more about it.
Question, Tim. Are both sides, I know that the sidewalk is scheduled for where there's existing sidewalk, but on the other side of the street, are there as many trees on that side?
Some. I haven't really examined the other side, but I was, I guess depending on the question that might come up with what it would be the impact of the trees, if that could be an alternative to look on the other side of the street and say, well, if there are only one or two trees, maybe, I think the electric wires are over there, but that shouldn't be too much of a bother for a sidewalk, even if the pole were in the sidewalk. So I suppose if we found that there were 8 or 9 trees, that in the perfect world you would get rid of the trees so the sidewalk could be flat, you say, well, that's just too dreadful to contemplate. You might look to that. Now, the project was approved for the north side of the street, so I don't know what would happen if you said, we'd like to switch sides. They might say, that's okay, I don't know. Mm-hmm. There is perhaps more sidewalk near the church because of the Sheffield and the other. So there is sidewalk which goes down there, but beyond that, you'd have to look and see. But it could be an alternative if the tree situation were really unthinkable. So we'll see. Next item is the Connecticut Water Payment in Lieu. I spoke with Connecticut Water, and indeed the streets that are involved in their offer are only the 3 vertical north-south Swan, Hartford, Portland. So we're fine on that. So the check has been received and it was deposited, and I said it, as I said in my memo, this can remain in escrow until the conclusion of the sewer work in Soundview, meaning the installation of the gravity sewers, and then these funds could be used to assist with the final repaving of all the streets there. Because I think the gravity sewers will be the final step, but they will disturb all the streets. So that's the plan. So I think it's going to work out fairly well. Okay, turning to new business, we have the pleasure to report that the Sustainable Old Lyme team was awarded the bronze status. I think the team applied before and didn't receive it, but this time they did receive it, so we tip our hats to the members of that team. It's not an easy process, I'm sure, and at this point there is the only other level beside bronze is silver. So I know that the team is thinking about what it can do to go to the next level. And I think maybe ultimately the state of Connecticut will come up with a gold level as well, but at this time that's not there. So we'll be hearing more about that, but I think that the areas that they worked on were quite a variety of them. Is it just solar or electric charging stations? It's a whole number of things. So I think it's a very interesting group to work on these different tasks, and I think it'd be interesting for them to recap what they did and get that out so people are more aware of what they do, because it was, I think, a very challenging assignment for them to get the bronze.
Yeah, I think the nice recap in Limelight for people to read about last month.
Yeah, maybe we can get it in it.
And there was something on our website too.
Oh, Lyme events, that sort of thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. There are 17 towns that were awarded either bronze or silver, including their neighbors, Old Saybrook, I think got silver. We had an exciting team, and they were just dedicated. And there's several categories. It's a lot of work. And the review process is intense. The state has really provided a lot of support to the towns that take on this added work. And next round, they have a new category. This is equity category, so it will require a fresh set of eyes on all these new categories, intense review, and the committee will be awarded, I think, a plaque, which is going to come to you, Tim, to the town hall to be put up. And they presented at the day before the CCM convention. There was a webinar. I think you were aware of that, and so all the 17 towns were represented in a virtual format. It was really very nicely done, where they honored each town and their efforts, and they in a creative way. So it was really impressive to be part of watching that, and I'm really, really proud of that team.
Yes. Good. The next item is to approve the holiday schedule for 2021. The state publishes this, and we actually deviate a little bit from that in as much as rather than having 2 President's Days in February, we devote one of those days to the day after Thanksgiving, because that's Thanksgiving is a holiday, and then the Friday, that's almost becoming a traditional holiday itself. So I roughed this out for our consideration, and I think we need a motion to approve the holiday schedule for 2021.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Good. The next item is the Board of Selectmen meetings for 2021. In response to comments, I've made them be 4:00 p.m. meetings, as opposed to rotating between 4 and 7:30. The section below the actual meeting dates, providing we have a town meeting and budget hearing and budget meeting, those are scheduled as they normally would be. If for some reason we have to meet virtually, then we'll take care of that instead of having an actual meeting. I don't know what to make of the annual town meeting. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably not likely to occur as an in-person meeting at this point, but we may be fooled, but I think we ought to plan for that. And then the others are April and May, so a little more time for that. It also includes some potential dates for the town hall budget review by the selectmen. So I threw those in there. If those are acceptable, we can go with that. And if more time is needed, we could also add it, but just to get it on the calendar. So there are a couple of Tuesdays due to one thing or another, because either a holiday or to annual town meeting or something of that sort. So other than that, it's fairly straightforward, I think. Now, if you're in a...
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, I think we do.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Very good.
Now, how much notice? I mean, I don't know what, I'm sure nobody knows what to do when it's like April thing or whatever. We can always tweak this if we give, 2 weeks notice or a week notice? Like, if we have to move a day,
24 hours, really.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if something comes up, you can cancel a meeting and reschedule a special meeting, or cancel it altogether. And you can add meetings as a special meeting. And I think 24 hours is the minimum to schedule a meeting.
Okay.
So I think we're at the stage of public comment. We'll all right, for those people on the telephone, we are at the stage of public comment. Are there any individuals who would like to make a public comment? No public comment. Okay. So
all participants have been muted.
We could turn to other business. This is a late handout, but it's more of a conceptual comment, advice from the selectmen. We have heard through the affordable housing, and I think from Mark Diebold himself, about the prospective apartment complex could be in the neighborhood of 216 units to be built off of, actually on Hatchett's Hill Road, 30% of which would be dedicated affordable housing units. And the nature of that property, it's basically rocky. If you remember Bridebrook, all the rock that they dealt with over there, well, I think it's similar to that. But Mark Diebold says that notwithstanding it's rocky, it can be dealt with. And I think he is contemplating 11 buildings plus some common areas and so forth. So the rock would be dealt with. However, the soils are basically non-existent for septic. And so he has talked with our WPCA about the prospect of what to do about lining up a sewer hookup. Not necessarily trying to be part of the 3 beaches in the town of Old Lyme Sound View system, but because WPCA is in charge of all things in Old Lyme, he wanted to talk to them. They indicated that, correct, he could not have any capacity from the existing sewer system that's being planned at the beaches. He would need to go directly to New London and to East Lyme, Waterford, to line up capacity. So he has talked with the chairman of the New London WPCA, and he asked me whether it would be possible to get a letter of support for the project. So I put together this letter as a draft just to see what the selectmen think about issuing a letter of support. I spoke with Rich Prendergast, who is the chairman of the WPCA, and he said so long as there's no comment that this might be part of the beach sewer project, he would have no objection to it. So the reason I started with this is that obviously we have a very low percentage of affordable housing units as defined by the guidelines, and this would perhaps nearly double our ratio if it were to happen. So what would happen here is that the project would have a pipe going down across 4 Mile River Road into Colton Road, ideally, if he could arrange with East Lyme and Waterford to tie into the East Lyme piping system and then go forward through Waterford. So the first step, he would like to line up the capacity with New London, and if there is no capacity offered, then he's got to make other arrangements. If they have excess capacity and would give the requirement he asked for, then he's to square one. He would still need to have an agreement with East Lyme and Waterford to use the piping system. So as I say, he asked if the Office of First Selectman might send a letter in support of his request to the New London WPCA, and so I thought it would be important to check it out with the board and see what you all think.
Now this obviously he's asking basically for a pipe from East Lyme or from East Lyme to hook up to its project. This is not going to have any cost to the town of Old Lyme.
No, he would construct the pipe from his complex down to 4 Mile River, across 4 Mile River, and into Colton Road, and then hook into the system there, ideally. I don't know any of the logistics and sizes and all that. If there was capacity for the piping system, that's half the equation, I guess, and then if there's capacity at the treatment plant in New London, that would be the other side of it. And what the costs would be, that I have no idea what they would be, whether they would be affordable or what.
So this is just like basically a good luck letter because he's got
I think, if it was a regular commercial building, you might, well, I suppose if it was going to really help the tax base and all that, you might be bullish on it. But the affordable aspect, I think, gives it a little more merit, if you will, since we don't have, percentage-wise, very much in town. And there's a long way to go. This is, I guess if he got permission, then he's got to understand what the costs are and if that's going to work, because that hasn't been articulated yet.
We'll still have to get through all the local boards and commissions. And
yeah, it is. The property is zoned for multifamily.
No, I'm aware of that. The only one in town.
But he'd have to go through a heck of a lot more stuff, yeah.
Tim, so, by your writing this letter, you're supporting private enterprise. Is that correct?
The what?
You're supporting a private enterprise.
Yes. It would, I suppose, if it was, say, unrelated to affordable housing, and it was just going to pay a lot of taxes, and the town thought it would be a good project in town. It could be a commercial venture too. It's almost like an EDC thing. I mean, what would economic development think of something like this? Because if we're trying to build a tax base, this project being residential, it will consume services, perhaps more services than a similar sized commercial building would. In a way of, if there were families in there and children and so forth, you'd have more services. So I think the affordable housing piece is an intriguing thing, because I think what we have done so far in terms of a house here, a house there, we have 3 or 4 of those houses and, some other things that are considered affordable, but other than Ryfield and Limewood, we don't have much. So this would give that an acceleration. it's almost like an economic development perspective along with affordable housing.
And do you know, I mean, how does he know 50,000 gallons per day is what he needs?
The what?
How does, your letter says that you're asking for 50,000 gallons per day of sewer capacity. How do we know that's the correct amount?
Well, that's what Mr. Debo has come up with. I gather that he's hired some professionals that say you have so many units, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms. I think it's 1 and 2 bedrooms. And the rest of the amenities, that's what he's come up with.
I don't know, I guess if you're asking for our support for this, or what are you asking for?
Well, just some comments.
Okay.
I could speak to our learned counsel too, to make sure that if a town were to send such a letter, is that a normal type of endorsement? We're not warranting anything about the company. We're just, it's more to the point that the affordable housing nature of it. I think what would happen is that if New London were to say, okay, we will reserve some capacity for you, they would probably say you have this commitment for so many months to get this done. And if the project had a hard time getting financing or whatever else, and it couldn't meet a deadline, maybe the commitment would have an end date.
I think what I'm thinking about here, and Gary just became aware of this, is that if, as the first selectman, you're supporting this process by writing this letter of support, is it reasonable to think that you would write a similar letter to our own EDC, who may need some sewage capacity for Halls Road?
I thought we weren't bringing sewers up Halls Road. I thought we weren't bringing up sewers up 156 Halls Road.
I'm just saying, we didn't know about this yesterday either. These development projects come up. And right. Tim has made a good case for supporting this, I think, because of the affordable housing. Who's to say that may not happen on Halls Road with development projects needing, maybe supporting affordable housing in there, and who's to say they may not need some kind of septic or community septic or something. And I guess what I'm saying is if we're so quick to support this, is it reasonable to think that we'll be thoughtful and responsive to our own economic development committees, commissions, and projects in town?
Yeah. Well, the logistics for something on Halls Road in a way of a sewer would be much more difficult, because you've got to, unless you went over Baldwin Bridge somewhere and found a place in that direction, up in Deep River or somewhere, it would be a monstrous undertaking.
Well, that's a whole different topic. But,
yeah.
Well, for right now, no, I'm saying about where they're going to get sewer down Halls Road. The question, the comment is, would we support it if it was available? It's a comment. It's not where we're going to get it from. But
yeah,
that's why I asked you up front, are you sending this letter as a good luck tokens, like saying, if you can get it, that's fine, or is this saying that we support this project letter? I think there's two different ways that letter be taken.
I guess I view it more as we support the affordable nature. The proximity to Colton Road is very compelling, because it's probably within a quarter of a mile of a pipe. if that were to work out. I have no idea whether that could work out. And it would be done by the private sector. We would have no municipal involvement other than approvals and so on. It doesn't endorse the principles or,
It does say you write this letter in support of this request.
We support the request, but we don't warrant that the company is a AAA or things like that because, it's way too early to know much about it. The idea of would this project in that location, if it could get sewer and water, would that be good for Oline? And I think with respect to the affordable housing part, that would be.
Let's go look at the Hope project. How about that?
That was a horrible location.
Let's not talk about that. How about all the concerns?
Well, you started it.
No, I'm talking about all the concerns about septic.
Yes.
That was really private enterprise. Outside, the town was not going to be pitching in money for that, and there were, a lot of people concerned about the potential of that they actually put in a special community septic program, and people were upset about that. So, and that was all affordable housing. So I'm just trying to draw some parallels, some recent experience, and the quick nature of supporting this effort makes me wonder, and I'd really like that to be thought about, is that we're quick to support this when we're real quick to say no to some other affordable housing opportunities and potentially some other ones that might be coming. So we're setting a precedent, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I could speak to the economic development people and see what they think. And I think if I ask our Attorney Carey, he might have some insight as to whether towns typically are in the cheerleaders for such a project. And as I say, I'm stressing the affordable housing nature of it. I think if it were simply an apartment building, it may not have the same.
I think we should ask Carrie from the EDC.
Yeah, it could be, and that might be a job for the Economic Development Commission to scope it out and make a reference. So I can check with those two sources to see what they think, but I don't really know whether other communities have endorsed projects in a similar nature, I think capacity in New London is scarce, and I don't think they just say, yeah, if you want, you get the money, we'll accommodate. I think it's more difficult to get the capacity. So, well, I'll do a little more sniffing around, and if you all think of something, well, let me know too. But we'll check it out, and maybe we'll try to get some more guidance on this. Okay. Other business.
You have a note to us in our box about the property in Tantamaya Road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, there is a meeting tomorrow night of the Harbor Management Commission, so I'm going to that, and we'll see what the Harbor Management says. Obviously, I don't know what jurisdiction the Conservation Commission has on town landings, but they obviously can express an opinion. So I expect we will be getting a recommendation from Harbor Management, because I told Steve that would be appropriate. Steve Ross, the chairman. And if it comes back to us with their recommendation, we are not bound by it. You know, we can consider it. It's town property. So, and it's been in existence since 1701, as I understand it.
Well, bottom line, you can't be going to locking off town property. So
yeah, that was a rash decision.
That was easy enough fixed or remedied. So
yeah, well, I think
we'll talk it out tomorrow night.
I think it would be wise to, you know, listen to all the arguments. I think probably the new owners had a couple of tough circumstances. First, they bought a house that had not been occupied for a couple of years, maybe pushing 3 years. So maybe people going there were less inhibited to walk on the property or whatever. And then they also moved in around the time of the tree swallow migration, so that attracts a lot of people. Whether at this time of the year, I would imagine it's a lot tamer. This letter talks about all kinds of improvements that might be made to the site, and I don't know what kind of permits would be necessary and so forth. I mean, I've not gotten into that. So I think we need to hear what Harbor Management, which is the initial body to consider it, and then it'll probably come back to us for some decision.
Well, Harbor Management already started talking about it. This is a part of their November 10th minutes, and it says that the people who bought the property placed 7 large boulders with some blocking access to the public area. Steve Ross is aware of this and had contacted Tim Griswold. They will be meeting soon to discuss the issue. The owners cannot block public access. And that's already in their November 10th minutes.
Right. So they should be aware of that.
They're definitely aware of it.
Yeah, it's town land to start with.
Yeah.
If they were misled by the realtor, that's not our problem.
I would say that it would be fair to have certain occupancies. If people are parking helter-skelter and making a mess, you know, it's just like Watch Rock. That had to be closed because the public was abusing the property. So I think if it has been out of control, you know, we would try to figure out what's the best way to have this work.
Well, Diana tried to, I mean, not working her deal, but this has come up before. Nothing was put in place then. So this is not exactly a new story. And the Harbor Management doesn't have responsibility for the area. I don't know how far they go from the water, but the boulders that prohibit parking, that's town. That's public works.
Well, we all know that was probably an inappropriate course of action. I'm sure these people feel differently, that people were coming after dark, hanging around and all that. So, you know, I think we need to look at the whole thing and
either way, I mean, we'll let them deal with it tomorrow night, but still, it's town property. If there's people out there after hours, call the police.
That's right. Things can be managed, right?
Yeah.
And if the area is suitable for X number of vehicles, then you don't want twice that coming in.
And maybe because it wasn't supervised for a long while, people were not acting responsibly. So we'll listen, and it'll be coming back to us, I'm sure, very shortly.
Moving on, the Affordable Housing Exploratory Committee had suggested an ordinance to us to consider at the January meeting, and I was wondering where we were in the process of that.
Yeah, but that draft will be reviewed by the attorney, and then he did a lot of work on it, so I think we can look forward to having an ordinance crafted. That would require, an approval process for the town meeting and so on. So,
do you think this would be for the January meeting?
I think so. I don't think it's going to be that complicated.
Library Lane, we talked about that last time. I think you said you were going to call Tom Metcalf to go out to assess what's going on out there. Did Tom write a report?
Yeah, we were out there on the 25 Library Lane, and definitely there is a source of water that's coming up under a bush. So the owner took us into the crawl space, and the basement was dry. The sump pump, I guess, let's see, that'd be in easterly direction, Elm Street?
Yes.
The sump pump is in the easterly end of the house. In the middle of the house is where this water is. So, nothing evident in the basement or crawl space. There was a pipe that we observed that came from the rafter area down to about 3 inches above the floor and exited through the wall of the basement. The owner did not know what that pipe was for. So she will be checking that out and letting us know. Because if there's something in the house that's pushing water out, then that could explain it. If it carries a wire or something, it's nothing to do with water, then that doesn't explain it. People have all kinds of ideas as to why this water would suddenly start bubbling up. So I think, pure and simple, if somebody has water coming off their property onto a town road, the property owner must understand what's going on, unless it can be pretty well demonstrated that it's coming from some other property to their property and so forth. If it's all underground, you don't know why. I mean, I don't think you live up that way. Has that water been there coming across for years, or is it somewhat a more recent phenomenon?
I'd say the last few years.
So it's pretty consistent, but...
Oh, recently it's gotten worse, but it's been there for a while.
So we looked at the other side, the northern side of Library Lane, the high school side, and it is evidence of water going down, I wouldn't call it the gutter, but the side of the road where the grass is, and when it gets down in front of the house there are some ruts in the grass, and water pools in those ruts. And so if we might explore creating some sort of a leak-off type of thing so that the water doesn't sit there, but if it's coming down, it could go through some riprap or something into the marsh and be carried away. Right now, it tends to, on the shoulder, the grassy shoulder with ruts, it sits there.
it's not flowing across the road. It's more or less on the side of the road, and maybe water from the property goes across the road and contributes to this accumulation of water. So we are waiting to hear exactly what's up with that pipe, and then the engineer will, help us figure out what the next step is. Obviously, the water goes over the road. When it's cold, it tends to freeze, and that's not good for motorists, not good for pedestrians. So other than salting it and so forth, that's probably what's happened in the past. But I think maybe it would require some digging to figure out if nobody can say what's happening. Because around this bush, the back and the sides are not squishy, but they're wet. In front of the bush, you can step on it, you'll go down 3 inches, in the dirt, in the mud. So something's coming up. And I expect, it's not our property, but I expect one would want to explore, dig down in there and find out, is there a reason for it coming up? Is there a pipe or something that's happening? So, you can't say yet.
So Tom will give us some direction.
Yeah, and I guess if it comes to, it's the town's fault or it's the homeowner's fault, someone's going to have to make a recommendation. But right now we're just trying to see if we can figure out why this water is coming precisely from a location. It's not oozing out over a long distance. It's like something's under there. So I think we need to understand why and what.
One thing that the chair of the Affordable Housing Exploratory Committee reminded us when we spoke to him is about the building lots on the McCulloch property that the town has available, since we're talking about affordable housing now. So the 2 lots there, and those had a time limit.
Are you talking the McCulloch property?
The 2 building lots.
5 years.
Yeah. So are we planning, or should we plan to form some kind of project team to build those?
Yeah, I think we're about a year into it maybe, so we're not up against it, but...
Well, it's going to go by quick.
Yeah, it does. And, yeah, because there's 2 lots. They are accessible from Flat Rock. So there could be a group that would...
Well, if I remember correctly, those lots weren't defined yet. There was enough area for 2 lots, correct?
No, I don't think they're already chiseled off or anything like that.
I don't know if they've been...
I don't think they've been subdivided.
Surveyed and all that stuff.
Right. I don't think so.
I think they're in behind the existing.
Of land with a wish list of having those as 2 lots. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think
they've been
that has been subdivided or anything. So they
surveyed and stuff.
So I think someone's going to start with what we have and what can we do with it. Can we get the 2 lots? And if we can, let's start the process, because you're going to have to go through proper channels, wetlands, drainage, the whole time.
And then get a developer to put up the structures ultimately.
Well, yes, eventually, but let's get the lots identified.
I think David McCulloch identified generally where they would go behind the existing 2.
Right.
So then the question, you'd probably have to, depending on what the zoning is, get the lots surveyed and move on. Open space is probably not the right group to do that.
But they may have the information that the project team
Yeah,
needs.
and Amanda Blair knows a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we could talk to Mike Fogliano, and if there are some individuals on the committee that would like to take that on as a separate little task, that would be helpful. You know, they're well versed in. So they could
By
work.
the looks of it here, and this is not a very accurate map, it hasn't been chiseled off as 2 lots. You have the ones that we gave to Hope Partnership.
Yeah.
And then it's the piece of McCulloch's piece. So if I remember correctly, there was room for 2 lots.
That's correct.
Yeah.
They were concerned about frontage and the driveway. So
Yes.
I do not believe these have been defined and legally split off yet.
No.
And I think that's
Okay.
what should be our first thing.
So yeah,
Either get a committee going or get someone's got to go, you know, just like anybody else. We're no different than anybody else. You got wetland zoning, planning, your driving permit, the whole line.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's a diverse group of people on that committee, so maybe there'd be an interest for 3-4 people to come together and start the process. And I'm sure they could talk to the land use department and, you know, get moving on it.
Well,
So
I
we
mean, that group, you know, will be sunsetting after, maybe some of them will carry on with the new.
I expect
commission,
so.
But you're right, there might be some people that would be
Yeah.
excited about having that kind of project.
Yeah. I'll call Mike and ask him if they, because somebody will have to actually file. I don't know who initially, I guess you could evaluate, is there, be it Hope or Habitat or something of that sort, would that be an organization that would take the ball and run with it,
Correct.
as opposed to having Old-Lyme citizens try to do it?
Right.
So they could evaluate the good and the bad of that. Because if you're going to hire a surveyor and this and that and the other thing, you know.
All that takes time. That's a year and a half out, so the clock is running.
And money. So I don't think it was endowed
Right.
with some money to do surveys and legal and so forth to create separate lots and move ahead. So, you know, it might need,
Well, we got the budget.
that might be figured out. And I think some of these be it Hope, and maybe they have the funds to do that and the expertise, and it might not have to be a town thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it would be sensible to use the other homes are being run, as far as we know, to people's satisfaction, to consider using that group.
yeah. All right. Well, I think they could help us with some of the legwork to get started on it, because
Yeah.
about a year into it. So,
Well, I mean, like Chris said, this takes time, and
yeah.
I think the clock is ticking. Okay. Since August, I've requested that the Board of Selectmen sign a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. Presented several versions for discussion. We've had some discussion, but never got a version back from you guys. Presented data, references. I'll give you another one. This is from the AMA.
American Medical.
Yes, the American Medical Association, who supports.
Do you have the Saybrook one?
I'm sorry?
Old Saybrook, I guess, did.
Yeah, they approved the same one that I gave you.
The long one there?
Yeah, this one.
Is that the Saybrook one?
Yeah, they approved the same one. The one that you received the petition for is very similar. It's long, but it's very similar to that. It's just, I thought it read better, frankly. This is the one that I think I'll pass out to you again. That came to us in August.
Well, some of the language for me cannot be in this the way it is. So, I mean, if there's something that's going to be different, maybe, but.
Well, numerous people come here and talk in support of the resolution, called in on public comment.
Well, that's fine.
Supported it on social media. Very few people have graced us with their presence against it. And included recognized experts in public health who have supported this.
Well, I see though that this thing that we looked at before, it puts a lot of, there were things that the Board of Selectmen were going to do and reports and that, and I don't know who's going to do that. So,
well,
I don't know.
This is a framework for the town to develop policies going forward to make sure that we look at all our policies and all the boards and commissions and hiring and everything, that we look at everything with a racial equity lens. The state statute.
And you believe that our boards and commission have racial problems? Is that it?
I think because we are white people, we think everything is fine. I think what we have to make sure is that we are looking at everything to make sure that we are looking at everything equitably and fairly. That we keep moving forward. This isn't something any one of us have dealt with before, but it takes courage. CCM is supporting this. They have done a great deal of work just this year. And in fact, they put on, during the convention, an outstanding series and you can go on YouTube and watch it, describing just what's happening here. Frankly, white people think everything's fine. We are not trained to know that there's other things happening to other people because it's not happening to us. And quite honestly, there aren't a lot of people around of diversity for us to ask. So it is tricky. But if Old Lyme has the secret sauce, like I said last time, that we've ended racism in the world, we need to share that. And I don't think we have. We presented, it's just inextricable. The data supports the fact that our systems are set up to support certain people and not everybody. And it's an economic decision also. We leave money on the table when we don't make sure our systems are working for everybody and that we are healthy and whole. And we just need to go down to New London and see that things are not going well there, and these are our neighbors. So it's not a question of do I think we've got racism here. Yeah, I do. The data supports it, and I haven't seen any data to show, and you guys haven't told me any data to show that we don't have it. So I'm asking us again to do the right thing, to be on the right side of history. Yes, do the hard work, set up the framework, make sure that our boards and commissions know from the top down that we're going to collect the data, we're going to do the work, we're going to support making Old Lyme welcoming, friendly, healthy, in education and housing and health in every aspect that this government can support. I also have some more articles I want you to read too, because it kind of, I wasn't sure I was going to hand this out, but this is from Scientific American. It's the October 2020 issue. And I just brought one page of it because it kind of addresses some of the concerns I've heard here. And I love this one line. They said that psychologist Beverly Daniel Tatum compares racism to smog, writing that it's something that we all breathe in. No one is immune to it. Attempting to unlearn racism has meant becoming aware of each inhalation and doing my best to excel less of it. And that just really struck me in that we are dealing with a pandemic that is a respiratory ailment. So I know this won't be easy, but it takes political courage to do this. I know it's not comfortable, but we are not the first ones to take this on. There's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of tool chests. CCM is there to help us. But to ignore it, it just boggles my mind that we would ignore it and say that we're the only town that doesn't have to deal with this. We all have to deal with it. And I also think, since the legislature is going to be having to take this up in the next session, it will be helpful for Devin Carney to have our input, have our experiences, to share that in Hartford. He's certainly going to get that from Old Saybrook too. So would you take a look at this resolution seriously? And again, I know it's not going to be easy, and we are going to have to dedicate resources to this. But it's budget cycle, it's a good time to do it. And I'm really, really here to help. I want to be part of this. I think we have to do it as political leaders.
Do you have a sense that the state of Connecticut's going to become more involved in mandating things?
Mandating what?
Any of this, I don't know. You were talking about the state of Connecticut.
They're going to take up this resolution. Do I have a sense it will pass? I certainly hope so.
I didn't
we're
know
a
if there
small
was...
state, and we have problems in this state. So the pandemic has shown where we that our systems aren't working to make everybody healthy. And I think Connecticut has to step up. So I hope they do. Whether that requires mandates or just recommendations, I wouldn't know. But perhaps Devin will have more of an insight into that. But he's going to need our support on this.
Well, I guess we've been hearing that with the schools doing remote learning, and a lot of schools, I mean, we happily do in-person learning. Schools that aren't, the kids are going backwards. And,
That's a good point. I mean...
And meanwhile, there's a lot of stuff like we got to close everything. And, I think you got to be careful. But the idea, you hear about it on TV, the lockdowns and the economic consequences and schools closing. And now it seems the medical community is saying, well, not so fast on school closings. And the teachers, some of the unions are very emphatic about not wanting to teach because of the risk to their health and all that. And now that seems to be moderating. So it's interesting how it's coming out. Well, we can look at it. I think it's, speaking for myself, I don't have a whole lot of time to say, okay, we're going to set up a whole new thing here. We've got COVID, we've got a lot of things going on, and I know multitasking is part of it, but I'll reread it. But I was not comfortable with some of the things that it's setting us up to do. Reports and this and that and the other thing, and to me it's just like I don't see it from the same perspective, and so that's just my opinion. We'll keep looking at it, though. You're persistent. Anything else, though, before we adjourn?
No. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. It's 9:36. All right. Thank you.
It's kind of a pain. Can't even see the thing.